Hi there. My name is Emma Cuniff, and I'm the owner of Kneehigh Farm in Northchester County. We're just outside of Pottstown, Pennsylvania. I rent from a nonprofit called Lundale Farm Incorporated, and we'll talk a little bit more about how they act as landlords and how they act as land stewards in this area. But currently, I rent 4 acres from them, and I thought we could take a little walk and kind of see what a farm looks like in January. Yeah, so I moved here in 2016, and previous to that, I started Kneehigh Farm at the seed farm in the Lehigh Valley. I was part of a farm incubator program where basically you could apply to farm at the location and apprentice for a year, and then once you completed the year, you were able to submit a business plan, and if that got passed by the board of directors, you were able to farm on site for however much acreage your business plan included. So for the first year, I started Kneehigh Farm on 1.5 acres, and we had 25 CSA members and some restaurant accounts. But I just looked at my finances from that year yesterday, and I think my gross income was $18,000. And so it's really cool to see now in my, I guess, 7th year how much that has expanded. So in 2016 we moved here. I upscaled to 7 acres on this site. And then quickly realized that a lot of this land here is actually considered wetland. So there's French Creek bordering the outside all along where the tree line is. And whenever we have a torrential downpour, the fields completely flood. So last year, I think the water came in like 100 feet into the fields and just was like, I saw a video that my neighbor took on the hillside and the water was just gushing in from the creek into the fields. So we pretty soon realized that this back portion over here was unusable for vegetable cropping, and we're kind of just letting it restore into wetland habitat right now. So I currently am cropping on 4 acres, and that supports 120 CSA, 120 member CSA, a farmer's market, Swarthmore farmer's market, and then wholesale accounts in the area. She's like, what? So the last several years, it's become super apparent to me that one of my main goals is building soil here, just because the water table is so close to the surface. I believe it's on the soil survey, it's 0 to 6 inches, the water table underground. So in order to kind of have a buffer between flooding and that the roots being in the water, we've been needing to build the soil. So this field over here are what we call field A. This has been cover cropped all last year, the entire year, with a biomass heavy cover crop. So we planted sun hemp, which grew, the field was, I think it was probably like 6-7 feet tall. We mowed it down, we let it grow again. We mowed it down to 3 feet, let it grow again, and then tilled it in. So that biomass, I'm so excited to plant into this field next year. And this is going to be a lot of our summer crops, like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, as well as some like leeks and onions and things that need a lot of heat and nutrients. So this crop right now is rye, and it's just to cover the ground over the winter and continue to add nutrients to the soil until we plow it in the spring. This field B, was all our fall and spring stuff last year, and it has been cropped for 2 seasons. So starting next year, it will be cover cropped the entire year long. And I kind of do that with I have 3 fields, and they do that 3-year rotation where 1 year it's cover crop all year round, and then for 2 seasons it switches from summer crops, so like tomatoes, eggplants, all those, to the spring and fall crops, which are mostly in the brassica family, and lettuces. And then to divert some of these water issues, we've also, last spring, we plowed these big swales and berms. So I have 4 along the length of the field. This is the second to last one. There's 1 more. And then on these berms, I planted a cover crop of clover, as well as right here, there's some blueberries that need a little bit of weeding. But that's kind of our little alley cropping experiment for now. And so then another aspect of the farm that I'm super excited about is separate from vegetables. It's more involved in fiber and natural dyes. So last year we planted, I think it was 450 feet of indigo, and we are going to double, if not triple that this year and try to produce our own pigment that we can actually sell and distribute to people in the community. We've had a lot of interest for that and have been using it to dye our merchandise and just play with, which is super fun. So that's something I'm excited about. I would say my core values as a farmer have really come to be healing this landscape. And I say that because I feel in the past couple years I've really committed to this space and grown some roots here personally as well as physically, just with infrastructure on the farm and our community. But yeah, now that I'm planning on being here for a long time, I really see the benefit of making this landscape, which has been a little neglected in the past, and there's been conventional crops grown on it, and the soil isn't amazing, it's really clay. My real goal is to just make this a super fertile, biodiverse oasis at Lundale. And I feel like in the past, I've always had those core values, but the financial aspect of that, of, you know, oh, do I want to invest in all this compost or all this, you know, cover cropping if I'm going to leave this area? Eventually, the answer became yes. Like, I do want to invest in that, even if I personally am not going to be inhabiting this land. The benefit, and I feel like my role as a farmer is to also be a land steward. So any place I go, that is my objective and my goal. And even more so now that I see myself being here, just the results of putting that kind of care and attention into the soil and, you know, into the water and the environment, it gives you that gift right back, you know? So it's a pretty beautiful relationship that makes me feel like I'm doing something important personally. And also I just see the benefits for the greater environment and the community. So it feels really good. Another core value I would say specifically for my farm is to create a safe working space for women or women identifying people. Because as a woman, a young woman farmer, I was lucky to have really amazing mentors, but I also feel like a space where women can fail and they can, you know, try to work with power tools or tractors and not feel judged. That was something I really wanted, and I really loved having when I had women mentors. And so being able to provide that for other female farmers is a real gift for me. I love working in that environment, and I hope it's a gift to those people as well.
Did you yourself grow up in agriculture?
So I did not grow up in agriculture. I grew up in California. I'm wearing my California poppy earrings to remember. And typically, I guess you could call me a fair weather farmer because I usually go back to California in the winter. So if it, you know, we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, I would be out in Santa Cruz, California with my family, hanging out on the beach, which is something that I grew up doing. But I fell in love with farming just through a love of nature and nature connection. I went through a permaculture designer's course for 9 months and got my permaculture designer certificate. And through that, I fell in love with the aspect of production growing in a way that was ecologically conscious and regenerative. So in the past, I kind of saw agriculture as this destructive force that is, you know, taking over the world, and we're growing too much corn and soy and destroying the planet, which I still see happening. But I see the other side where in order to make change, you really have to get involved in it and participate in alternative. So for me, getting involved in agriculture and growing food for people, I just wanted to do that in the right way. That could show others, you know, this is how food can be grown, and we all need food to eat, and why don't we transition from industrial agriculture to this model? So that's kind of my form of activism, I would say.
Could you be doing this same thing in California, or is there something like specifically Pennsylvania about this?
Yeah. So the decision to move from California to Pennsylvania to farm really came from a financial standpoint. It was very, very difficult to find affordable housing as well as affordable farmland in the area that I came from. And when I left California, I believe in 2012 or 2013, we had been in the middle of a very intense drought. I believe we were 7 years in. And so the farm I had worked at in California, they were paying for city water, and that was their biggest expense, more so even than the land. And so just the cost of it, unless you're at a certain scale or unless you're, grandfathered into a parcel of land, it was really challenging to get a foothold there. I also grew up in a town, Santa Cruz, where there's a farm apprenticeship program where they pump out 40 apprentices every year. And so that particular area is one very saturated with small organic growers, but also just they spread out across California typically. And making your way in the marketplace can be really challenging. So I knew I wanted to start my own farm business. And so I was looking for programs similar to that apprenticeship program, but out on the East Coast, just because I like this area. I lived in Ohio for a while, and I lived in Pittsburgh, and it really called to me, this area. So when I found the seed farm program and applied to it, it seemed like the perfect situation because being an incubator, they kind of, like a baby bird, they incubate you and you can start your farm and you have access to their tractors and their greenhouse and their cooler space and their knowledge and just the network. And then once I really got my foothold in there, I was able to search for other land and lucky enough to find this piece of land, which has been really good to me. And I also rent housing here very affordably, which makes it totally worth it. Yeah.